You can improve monetization, you can improve retention, you can do the right things, and you can get to that threshold.
Iterate, check the data, test, find the model
And
that
go
works.
to get a doctor's opinion, right? I mean, I always tell
I
developers,
like it.
I'm a doctor opinion. You can always go to a second opinion. But when they come to us, we will give them a very objective look. We will tell them this is missing, or maybe not, but maybe it's not missing and we can work together. But the assessment that we give them is trying to help them to get to the next stage.
Hello and welcome to Growth Masterminds, the podcast for growth marketers. My name is John Koetsier. Today we're in for a treat. We're chatting with the people who are so good at UA and performance marketing that they kind of do it as a business. They're behind titles like SpongeBob, Krusty Cook-Off, Star Trek, Timelines, Warhammer, Chaos and Conquest, Narcos, Zombieland, AFK Survival. I've always wondered if AFK is away from keyboard. I'm guessing it is, but we'll find out. They've had some big successes. They work with more than 80 games. They've scaled monthly marketing on titles like Match 3D from 500K to 11 million, which is not small, and helped them explode revenue 30x. That's impressive. And they've scaled apps and games to top 10 grossing in their categories in the United States. They recently raised a $150 million round of funding to do UA for you. Well, maybe for you. They provide non-dilutive marketing capital, which means they don't take equity, and they offer massive UA and creative know-how. The company's Tilting Point. Today, we're chatting with the Chief Business Officer, Asi Burak. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sean. And it was a lovely intro. Thank you.
Very good. I'm pumped to talk. You're in Barcelona, which is one of my favorite cities in the world. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is UA and growth and all that stuff. Maybe we'll start here. We're going to get into everything. We're going to talk about your fund. We're going to talk about how you pick games, what your business is like, and what you've learned. Maybe we'll start here. How did you guys get so good at user acquisition and performance marketing?
We're going back in history to probably 2016.
Yep.
So look, the way it worked is that the Tilting Point was established in 2012. So there was definitely the premium period. And what I think Tilting Point knew how to do again and again is to adapt. And the first adaptation was the big free-to-play, premium moving to free-to-play. And we saw it as an opportunity. And we got some big talent that came from free-to-play, like Samir at the time. He was chief product and then co-CEO with Kevin. And we had JS coming on the growth side, which, by the way, JS still works with us as a consultant until this day. So we're talking about 9 years later. And the question they ask themselves, and they ask us at business development and partnership, is what developers need most. Moving from premium to free to play, what is the number one priority? What is the number one thing that we need to help developers with? And they started to build also some real tech inside that back in the day when Facebook and Google were not that good at what they do was really, putting a 20% incremental bump just by using the tools that we developed in-house. So I think that was a real product market fit. And we started to come to developers, and we started to come also with kind of a menu that was really trying to say, whatever you need, we'll do it. If you need only the funds, we'll give you only the funds. And honestly, it was the first time in the market that someone did it. So developers were shocked. They're like, wait. So I'm not giving my equity for this. So wait, you're not going to take my company away or something? It was really interesting that they also understood that I'm taking a risk on actually their performance, because if the courts don't yield, it's actually my problem.
Yep.
So that was the case of funding only. But then there was a case of, someone wants much more than that, funding and management. And then there was the case of full publishing, which we did in the past, and we kind of moved from it. But that was the beginning. It was really about how can we help developers? And we found UA as the real entry point, to every discussion.
I mean, when you're taking that kind of risk and you're scaling monthly spend from K to 11 million, you've got to know a lot about that game. You've got to really understand the mechanics there. You got to understand, can I scale that, and can I scale that profitably? Talk about that, because you have this new fund right now. You're
Yes.
looking for new games, apps to partner with. What are you looking for when you're evaluating somebody that you might spend millions of dollars a month on?
It's a good question. Look, today it's easy because we know it's working, right? It's proven. It's the third fund. But at the beginning, look, it was a very, I commend the leadership and Kevin and Samir to jump into it, because really nobody did it, and it was taking a lot of risk. Today, we know it's working, but you're right. We need to get a lot of data. We have our criteria. So, for example, these days, we will try to invest if someone is at or above $500,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So that already kind of filters a lot of things that are still building.
That's a big filter. Yeah,
for sure. The second filter is the payback. You talked about it before. It's not that we never did it. There are exceptions, but we love to be in the 1-year payback window.
Mm-hmm.
So another filter. But obviously the intimate knowledge with genres, gameplays, similar cases, from being able to look at so much data over the years, it's not only that we have great benchmarks. I think that we also are able to know when something is new. Mm-hmm. So the case of Match 3D, for example, that you mentioned, this is probably one of our biggest success stories in scaling. The guy came to us with a $500K investment in UA. Mm-hmm. He had a game that returned super quick. Mm-hmm. 30, 60 days, the money comes back. And the other thing that we saw is that the retention on that game was phenomenal. There was something, he basically invented the genre. So it's a place where, it's the best story I can tell about the model, because you're basically, you see a guy that invented a genre. Yes. And he did it with 5 guys in a room. He later sold it for $200 million because his EBITDA was so crazy, just for the fact he had such a lean team and made it so quickly. The retention, usually you see retention going down, and day 90 is really, really low. His retention day 90 was 5%. So you saw a game that was super, super engaging, super sticky. Mm-hmm. And we knew that we can start, putting the gas on the pedal, but we did it from month to month. It wasn't a jump, immediately. It took us probably, I think, 7, 8 months to get there. Mm-hmm. But everything is data-based. Everything is evidence-based.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, one of the reasons I love doing this sort of thing is I talk to people who are experts in different areas, and I am seriously a complete novice in game funding, that sort of thing. And it surprised me when you said that you look for 1-year payback, and then you talked about Match 3D and you're looking at 30-day, basically a month payback, and a year seems like a long time frame. Is that standard? Is that average? Is that the longest you'll accept?
So unfortunately, what happened to UA post, 22
ATT?
and some other things in the market, that saturation, the fact that the large market leaders are spending so much, it became tougher. Mm-hmm. We see objectively that paybacks extended. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, a lot of people that we see go beyond 1 year. And it's not that they go beyond 1 year because they want to go beyond 1 year. They don't have a choice but to go beyond the 1 year. Right? So they go to 1.5 years, they go to 2 years. Look, again, as I said, there are exceptions. If someone has very established history, we'll go there. Mm-hmm. But to your question, I think that 1 year for something that is really, really robust, it's a good place to be in. Obviously, I still see things that are shorter. You know what I see a lot that is shorter? Things in the gain cash. Like you play and you have the
Yes.
ability to earn cash.
Real money gaming.
Real money gaming,
Okay.
not gambling per se.
Or just rewarded. Okay, I get it.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
rewarded. I'm talking about things like skills based games, platforms that, for example, it's hybrid between an app and a game, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Will get you cash by walking healthy, you know, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Well, and this year-long payback that you're talking about and the extension that you're talking about over the past few years speaks to the need for UA investment, right? Because for the typical person who doesn't have a big VC fund, let's say, and is maybe bootstrapping, like how much can you pour in? And then you got to wait, right? It's got to come
Sure.
out before you could reinvest, right? So then this is accelerant.
Absolutely. And look, talking about VCs, first of all, a lot of VCs unfortunately started to withdraw. You know, it's not as easy as it was. So there, and also there is with the VCs, there is a bit of the herd mentality that, you know, gaming is not as sexy as it was for fast returns. So there is a bit of withdrawal and there is a vacuum. But even if someone has a VC, you know, when I talk to developers, some of the conversation get very fast into resource allocation. So I'm always telling developers, I want you to take your VC money, that is like the quality money,
Mm-hmm,
and help you to invest that money in your product, in the growth of your team, in your IP,
mm-hmm,
and take
mm-hmm.
my money for the high quality investment. Sorry, for the low quality investment, because I see marketing as low quality investment because it's money that you recycle all the time, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
kind of feed the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's super important, but it's not, you know what I mean? It's money that it's almost like it's a burden for a developer that I want to relieve him from so he can spend his high quality money in the things that really matter for his value, right?
Interesting. IP or their
Yeah. Obviously, the
gameplay
scale
or
will give him value too. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
it's almost like I replace sometimes his need
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
invest a lot in marketing so he can release that cash to invest elsewhere.
Yeah. Talk about expertise as well. And I know you've done that in the past, and maybe you've pulled a little away from that. I'm not entirely sure, but you've got a lot of indies or you got a lot of developers and they create something new. They create something cool. Even, the Match 3D example that you
Yeah,
talked about,
yeah,
right? Where they've created an entirely new category, which is rare, but it does happen.
that's it.
And that's their expertise. Marketing and tech marketing, performance marketing, UA marketing is its own beast. It's its own animal, right? With its own skills, talents, data requirements, it's very complex, a whole stack that you need for growth and everything like that. What do you do in that area?
Look, the thing that we have going for us is the fact that we manage so many games, right? So it's a serious team that is working across those games. We have a lot of learning that come, you know, cross course learning from them. We have a lot of learning from the games that even the games that we fail, right? That come to
Mm-hmm.
us and are not necessarily going to succeed through the funnel. All that expertise it's one of the most important assets that we have. You know, in some cases, even when we give only money,
Mm-hmm.
because of that expertise, even the monthly call with a developer would be very valuable because we can point him to something that, because he's a developer that works on one or two titles or even four, and we work on so many, we can say, you know, for your genre, that channel might be something that you should take a look at because in the last 3 months, there was a very strong performance there.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have really recently success with rewarded platforms, but you have also to understand the weakness that sometimes in long-term retention from month X, it's less effective, you know? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it starts to be a conversation that is very nuanced, and a developer that doesn't have this, you know, very wide publisher look, we can help a lot.
Or even the UA person who's focused on one game or a small suite of games, having the bigger picture from 80 plus across multiple categories and other stuff like that. I would desperately crave that. I mean, I know some VCs like investing in serial entrepreneurs, not just for the ones that they win, but also ones they fail, because they learn where they've wasted money, right? And you
Yeah.
learn where you waste money.
Yeah. And look, a lot of people, I mean, developers, licensors, we have conversations where people say some broad kind of statements about the market. And almost always our response is, wait, depends on the genre, depends on the game, depends on the development team, depends on the geo, depends on the localization work they've done, depends on the monetization. So, there are people that will have a first conversation with us and like, how much can you invest? We're like, let's look at the data. Let's look at what you did so far. Let's try to assess the potential. So sometimes we can predict as well, right? We can say that thing is not maximizing their potential. Maybe it's a lack of cash. Maybe it's a lack of, they're not risk takers.
Or monetization model. Maybe they haven't maximized that.
Maybe it's that. So these are times where we tell a developer, look, we can take you as you are, but we want to grow with you X, in the next few months.
Cool.
And look, today I have to say one more thing is that developers became much more sophisticated, especially in Europe and the US. The conversation we have today versus the conversation we had in 2017, 18, 19, it's night and day. I mean, they will really grill us, even in the funding, on questions like, okay, what happens if I want to fund too? So we co-fund because they want to put some of their money to work. Or what happens if, some extreme cases happen? They start to really, really understand the depth of it. So it's on one end, it's a pleasure. On the other end, they're a good negotiator.
Well, that's a good thing. You want to work with smart people. You do non-dilutive funding, so you don't take equity. Why did you choose that model?
I mean, in general, as a company, we're not crazy about minority stake in companies. That's like a philosophy. We're doing much more majority stake as in M&A, either the whole company or a majority. For our own reasons, we are much less into investments. But it's also, I think, the developers benefit that I'm not taking his share. Look, I'm kind of, my white hair tells you that I've seen a lot of, also as an entrepreneur myself, but others as well. I've seen a lot of startups and a lot of founders that find themselves after all those years with a very small chunk.
1%, 3%, 5%.
And part of it is that, at the beginning, you have a lot of equity. It seems like something you can give away and you end up giving too much of it. So we want to give him an offer, a proposal, a model that doesn't risk it at all. And in fact, in many cases, we don't even touch the corporate level. There are cases that we collect revenue directly. And then we don't even need to do any security agreement on the corporate level. So it's not even getting to be a loan. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Super interesting. Wow. Maybe chat with some of the indies or maybe small studios who are starting to think about something like this, starting to think about how they scale. They built something, they're seeing good early numbers in monetization, retention, but the payback periods, maybe it's 3 months, and 3 months is a long time. And maybe you only have a few $1 million of capital to play with or something like that, right? What do they need to do to scale? What do they need to do to win?
Look, if they are ready for us or someone, that does it right now in the market, I have much more competition than before. But if they're ready for funding, obviously I would start. I mean, they can always improve, but if you can scale. That's don't wait for, many times. How many times I heard? No. How many times I heard permission? How many times I heard the developer tells me, no, we don't want to scale because the next version is going to be so much better.
Yes.
Like, if you can put money and bring users and bring players and quality players, do it. The one thing I do want to tell you though, that, and originally I did spend the last 20 years in the US before Barcelona, but originally I'm coming from Israel, and I've seen it with the Israeli community of developers in mobile and the Turkish community of developers. I'm not saying that I didn't see it elsewhere, but there it's very, very dominant. The discipline. There is like this mentality of drilling that they are going to be persistent until they crack it. And I've seen many of them over the years. Some of them became giants. I even saw CoinMaster when they were at $1 million a month.
Wow.
Okay. Coming to us and kind of just starting their first steps. And he told us, look, I cracked something and I know that it's starting to work now. But he worked on it for months and months and months. So look, it's not always easy to have that time, and that's exactly the VC money that I was talking about.
Yes.
That's what it needs to give you. But it's this idea that it's just a matter of metrics that you can crack like a puzzle. And once the threshold is there, you will explode. And not to despair. I mean, look, if you're here, it's a problem, right? I mean, if you're very, very far, but if you're here, you can do it. You can improve monetization, you can improve retention, you can do the right things, and you can get to that threshold.
Iterate, check the data, test, find the model.
And go to get the doctor's opinion, right? I mean, I always tell developers,
I like it.
I'm a doctor opinion. You can always go to a second opinion. But when they come to us, we will give them a very objective look. We will tell them this is missing, or maybe not, but maybe it's not missing and we can work together. But the assessment that we give them is trying to help them to get to the next stage.
Yeah. Cool. So you've got this new fund, $150 million, but you actually won't cap spending. If somebody comes to you, you love their game, you love or their app or whatever, and you love what goes on in there, retention, monetization, there's no end to the money, right? I mean, I assume that's because the money recycles.
It's because of that, but it's also because, we always say, if I know that I can put $1 and get that $1 in the most convenient scenario up to 12 months, why wouldn't I invest the $1? So
I presume you mean more than the $1 back?
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
but I need first to get my investment back, right?
Yes.
So if I know that I get my investment back, and then I get on top of it the fee, and I know that I can do it over and over again, and I know that games
it's a money machine.
Yes, this is really important though to understand. Each game at its current stage, okay, because you can always improve it, but at the current stage, has a capacity. So when we were doing assessments, even at the beginning, I was always going to the gurus, the geniuses of the UA in the company, and I was like, how much this game can carry? Like, how much do you think it can carry? There's always like a limit that beyond that, it will be just stupid to invest. I mean, more than, $500,000 a month, or in some cases it's 5 million a month. In some cases it's 15 million a month. But we need to get to that threshold. As long as it's there's no limit.
And I guess that's more about niche, and that's about where target audience and size of that are those the factors there?
100%. It's also about the genre. There are genres that can scale more than others. It's also related to audience, of course.
Yeah.
And there are genres that by nature will return faster, just the way they work, versus things that are more deep and they take usually longer curves. But yes, I think that every game has its own, and it does live in a context that is wider. But then you get the match 3D cases that are one of a kind,
Yes.
Now it's not, but back then it was the first.
Maybe let's draw this to a close and maybe give a kind of a big picture assessment of the space. It's interesting, right? Because you talked earlier, you're saying, VCs saw like easy money in gaming, and now they see a lot of competition noise, maybe a red ocean type of market or something like that, harder to make money. But if we look at gaming, we've seen interesting things there over the decades, but certainly over the past few years as well. The massive jump during COVID, a little bit of reversion to the mean, perhaps, but still amazing growth and amazing potential there, and move into cross platform, and games are on everything, right? Games are everywhere, and everyone is a gamer now, right? Everyone is a target member of the target audience. How do you see the future of games largely in terms of an industry ecosystem space?
Look, it's definitely a good question in terms of looking forward. Let's start with mobile. Um, I still think that we have this amazing aspect that nobody else has that with that power in the other areas, that UA still works well. I mean, yes, it's not working as well as in the past. It's not growing as in the past. It's still working well in the sense that you can still have something that is very, very unique in general, by the way, in media, that you can market something that is almost scientific. Like you can spend marketing budgets almost in a scientific, evidence-based way. Sometimes it's not even almost, it's like 100% like that. Think about it. I mean, you don't have it in film in that way. People throw marketing budgets. They can't tell you that that player got from your budget and he stayed for 2 years and, watched the game, watched the movie 6 times or whatever. So that is very unique for mobile. And I think it's still there. However, I think that what we will see is more diversity in revenue sources, revenue, let's call it models. We lived for a long time with IAP and ad revenue. And I think that, and then new things started to come in, subscription, the season pass. I think we will see more of that, especially now when you see the earn cash things. I could imagine a game that is a regular game, but has some of those elements inside. So like a map of revenue making that is much more sophisticated and diversified, you know?
Super interesting. Any clues as to what that includes?
Look, even, well, this is a bit of a risky example because I know how people think about Web3, but even in the Web3 world, I've seen so many things that were not really holding. But then I saw some things that were hybrid, that were basically working with the traditional Web 2 models, but put the Web 3 as a hybrid on top for a very small percentage of players that might appreciate it. You
Huh.
know,
Huh.
when it works, you basically added a layer of revenue that nobody else has,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think you can say the same about e-commerce, for example.
I like it. I like it a lot. And that little extra layer might be just the thing that you need to return
Absolutely.
enough cash into the company to drive further growth and outcompete your competitors, right?
Yes.
That's really interesting. I like the e-commerce thing as well. We're seeing that come in. Like I said, everybody's a gamer. Guess what? Everybody buys clothes. Everybody buys electronics.
Yep.
Everybody buys appliances, whatever, right? And so there's other things that can go into that.
100%. And I think also the games apps board kind of boundary is going to blur even more because you will start, I mean, Duolingo, okay? Is it a game? Is it an app?
Exactly.
It's working?
Love it.
I can tell you that.
Nice, nice. Okay, so that's mobile, and there's a crazy, crazy opportunity there. We see increased cross-platform. We see some console, some PC, Steam type titles, right?
Yeah.
Other things like that as well. Steam might almost fit your kind of criteria of
Yeah.
mobile, where marketing can be fairly scientific, fairly digital.
They're
But
not very friendly to tracking. So in that sense, they didn't open really the gates for, UA in a big way. But I
yeah,
think that what you will see, you talked about cross-platform. I think the other trend that is very strong, and that kind of, we look at it from mobile, but I think you have people that look from PC and console is this idea that you will start to see more and more B2C things happening. You already see it, whether it's web shops, whether it's playable versions on the web, whether it's things that start in mobile going to PC, whether it's things that start to work on console going to PC. And you'll see even, I think, the bigger platforms. I mean, you saw it with Xbox announcing their Play Everywhere thing. You will start to see more and more this idea that you want to catch the player at any place they play. In that sense, the mobile developers will need to understand much more the drivers of PC and console. But I think that the console guys will, and they're still struggling with it, will need to understand how mobile works well. And it can expand their audience by multiples and multiples.
Agree. Well, this has been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed the chat. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. And when you come to Barcelona, ping me. We have a guest room and everything is ready.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay, man.